Minnesota Vikings trade rumors are continuing to heat up as multiple news sources have come out detailing what a possible trade the Vikings could make for a former wide receiver. We're going to be breaking it down, going over these new updates and new revelations as it seems like a trade is getting closer by the day. And we're also going to be kind of, once again, touching on a little bit extra here at the end of the video. So be sure to stick around for that. But before we do get into this video, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button. We have a lot of Minnesota Vikings news coming over the next couple days, and especially now with the trade market continuing to heat up with Harrison Phillips being traded, and now the Vikings looking for another wide receiver. You're not going to want to miss it. We know it's just over 90% of you guys watching right now have not done so already. I'm going to be keeping you up to date daily with all of your Minnesota Vikings news. But let's jump straight into this. And I first want to get into it with a few sources, kind of go over things that we've been seeing, kind of not necessarily related to football itself, but outside sources that are making a Adam Thielen trade seem more likely by the day. And first of all, heading into this, the Vikings fan page, I'm sure if you have, if you look at Twitter for your Minnesota Vikings news, Vikings fan page is a page that you always look at. And seeing this, they tweeted out, "Oh, it's happening," and then put that on Instagram as well. They see your reel. Adam Thielen's wife liked the video on Instagram, which is, of course, she's going to support her husband regardless, and we know how much of a fan she is of Adam Thielen, how much she loves Minnesota, everything like that. But this is just another interesting thing that we could definitely throw a bit of seasoning on and kind of go out here and make sure something like this is actually possible and making it more kind of put in the weeds with this. And I'm very excited to see where this does go. Once again, I don't think that Adam Thielen's wife liking this reel on Instagram really means anything, but the fact that, we're going to jump into what's going on with the K. Adam showing up, and Adam, we're going to kind of go into why this is such an important video as well, and we're going to kind of jump into that now, actually. And Kay Adams had Kevin O'Connell, as you saw in the intro video, and in that interview, there were some very interesting things, and she said, "I told Kevin O'Connell that I'd like to see the Vikings bring back Adam Thielen," and when there was, that came out in the video when Kay Adams said that, Kevin O'Connell had a nice smile on him, and Kay Adams is kind of, once again, stirring the pot here and saying, what is that smile? And we've been seeing a lot of things like this where the Vikings are not really trying to spill anything. I almost feel like they're trying to make this trade for Adam Thielen come to fruition. I think that's not as easy as said, easy as done as said, or said as than done. But going into, this market that we've been talking about, especially on the wide receiver market, there's a lot of options that they can use. Now, how many of those are actually going to be viable options? I think there's a few. Amari Cooper, as I mentioned, is one where you maybe trade Harrison Phillips to be able to make his contract work, and we're going to kind of jump into why that would also affect Adam Thielen here in a bit. But making all these moves really makes it, evident that the Vikings, if not already, that they said they were looking for a wide receiver. It makes it evident that they're going out here and looking to add in this core for a veteran via trade more so than free agency, which once again points a lot more signs to Adam Thielen than some of these, Gabe Davis type players or, really anybody who's still in free agency. And even Amari Cooper is still there, Travis Boyd, they're all still there, but what's going to be the whole idea, or Tyler Boyd, excuse me, what's going to be the whole idea going on with them going into the next couple days as the Vikings are continuing to heat up in this trade market. Now, going in once again, the Vikings fan page put this out, and the Panthers are not really wanting to necessarily trade Adam Thielen, but they have to keep an eye on the Vikings, and that's what comes from Tom Pelissero, and of course, we know that the Panthers, definitely an interesting team now where they have Bryce Young actually starting to play some really good football. Having Adam Thielen on that team is exactly the role that we want to have him in. Once again, they have him in that veteran role, the one that you can trust, the one where you can throw him in kind of any formation, any route you want him to, and he'll have that success. We've seen that here in Minnesota for years, and now the Panthers are going with that. But as Tom Pelissero said, regardless of if the Panthers want to trade him or not, the Vikings are a team that you must watch here in this instance and keep an eye on over the next few days. And of course, you're going into it, and when we're taking a look at the depth chart here, I do have it somewhere going into the depth chart right now. You have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, then you have also Ty Felton as your wide receiver 5 with Jalen Naylor as your wide receiver 3, and giving J.J. McCarthy, once again, another option that is just a lot of trust. You can trust Adam Thielen in so many scenarios. It just adds that kind of role that, the Vikings necessarily would not have had with Rondale Moore in that case before he did get injured. And Jordan Addison's 3-game suspension, that's going to be another role where he trusts already Jordan Addison, not necessarily playing with him in games thus far, but having a full kind of, throwing session with him over a year, not in game pace or whatnot, but knowing him, knowing what kind of player he is, knowing him, watching what he does, your confidence goes up in a pass when you're seeing that guy come out here and do a route that you're confident knowing that he can complete. And getting that with any Adam Thielen, type player, I guess, any veteran, I guess is a better way of putting it, is going to be much more, comforting, I should say, for J.J. McCarthy. And we know that he's going to be good regardless, but just adding that layer of Adam Thielen is another great option. And I want to go back to what we kind of skipped over, and that's the Vikings cap space. And when you go and take a look at it right now, they do have $31 million in cap, and now that is the edited version with Harrison Phillips, off the books. They currently find themselves 11th most in the NFL. Now, when you do go over to Adam Thielen's contract, he is going to be a free agent after this year, but is currently making $10 million. And the Vikings, in my mind at least, don't really care about what's going on next year. They're going to win now, and they're trying to win over these next couple of years. They know they have a window. That window is getting smaller, but it's still pretty wide open. And giving Adam Thielen maybe 1 or 2 more years here, I'm sure he would love to sign an extension if he does plan on playing once again another year. But going into taking a look at what Adam Thielen's money is like, it's a very kind of easily financial move to make for this Vikings team with, even before getting rid of Harrison Phillips' contract. But this is something I wanted to point out because, really all signs seem to be pointing to this. I'm seeing so much kind of stuff floating around of what the possibility of things like this going to be are. I think that every little thing, like what Kay Adams had, Adam Thielen's wife, all liking these things, are just signs that, pointing towards this team trying to make that little extra move. And, of course, having him come back to the Minnesota Vikings, you could already see the highlight reels. You can already see the return videos. You already see it. And I think that's what Adam Thielen knows as well, how cool it would be to come back and have the same importance role going in as he left. So I want to have him come back to this team. I want him to keep it as an option. Of course, we need to make the Panthers get a good deal, and they probably know that they can try and squeeze a little bit more out of this trade from the Vikings than what you really could for any player, knowing that it is Adam Thielen, of course, undrafted, playing here, being a star here, and going from that, you want to get him back. And I think that's what the Panthers know they're trying to do as well. So that's something to keep in mind as well from the Vikings standpoint. Now, I do have one more topic before we do finish the video off, and kind of going back to the other options. Let's just say this Adam Thielen trade does not come out to it. The Panthers are asking too much. There was a tweet on Instagram, or a tweet on Twitter, coming out about looking at this, kind of possibilities for a trade for the Vikings wide receiver. And this comes from Ian Hartzitz. I believe that's pronounced his name. I do apologize if that is wrong. But going over, some possible trade options. And you have electric Chris Olave. There's a lot of risk of injury there, once again, with 3 concussions last year. Nostalgic Adam Thielen, and kind of go over the rest of them that are pretty, interesting to kind of think about when you're going down to it. But realistically, I think the one option that you really want is Adam Thielen. None of these other guys really, to me, at least scream veteran like Adam Thielen due to him already being here. The fans love him. Undrafted, being from Minnesota. Everything really fits the bill, and not just that. I also think that he probably is the best wide receiver here that, you can run as a number 3 option throughout the entire season. Chris Olave, he's good enough to be a 1 in some teams, 2 on others, but he's not going to be a 3. And you go down that list, I feel like that's more the same with quite a few of these players, and if it's not, Adam Thielen, I think, surpasses them in that case. So I want to know what you guys think about this here in the comments below, because obviously things are heating up in the trade market. The fact that we're seeing all this about Adam Thielen has to point to something, so I'm very curious to see what you think that is in specific, but like I said, that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.